This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
Two races into the season, two different winners, neither of which sit atop the point standings. Victor Prado won the season opener, and then last season's runner-up Mark Usher won round two. But with podiums in both of the first two races is Xavier Ross, and that consistency puts the Spaniard in the points lead coming into the next round, which is why we are here. From Watkins, Glen, it is round three of the Batteries Not Included 2019 Spring Season Championship, and you can see all the simulated Williams FW31 action live as it happens right here on the Global SimRacing Channel via the iRacing Esports Network. Hello and welcome. Up in the booth to bring you our Word's Eye view, Stefan Slocker joining yours truly, Bill Soups On. Turning the knobs and pushing the sliders is our director, Sean Crackers Ambrose, armed with cameras locked and loaded by Dougie Beard. After races on the Grand Prix circuit at COTA and then at the Nürburgring, B&I comes to Watkins Glen. Stefan, what configurations do these drivers have to negotiate today?
Yes, Soup. Today our challengers must tackle the fast turns of the Watkins Glen Classic boot layout. One of the fastest road tracks in America, Watkins Glen started life as a street circuit in 1948. Shortly after, however, in the year 1956, the permanent racetrack got opened. But let's take a look at the numbers for a second. 3.4 miles in length, and since we're utilizing the classic layout without the inner loop, only 11 turns. To give you an example of what we will see today, we're expecting an average speed somewhere north of 135 miles per hour. F1 raced here from 1961 to 1980. However, in the latter stages, with a chicane added to the uphill S's due to the increasingly faster cars of that era. Today, we're not needing to add any chicanes due to safety concerns, but the challenges still are plentiful. Thus, let us take you on board a lap around Watkins Glen with our GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Clayton McLeod in the GSRC Williams, so let's do a lap around Watkins Glen. 90, you've got a great place to pass, but you also want to watch out since the downhill entry makes it easy to outbrake yourself. From there, it's a flat-out climb all the way up through the S's. But as you approach the backstretch, you're already gaining some astonishing speed. That'll mean a big hole in the air is going to be punched by the car ahead, and you can expect drafting to play a part in how battles unfold today. Because this is a modern F1 car, the downforce is so powerful, you won't be braking on your way into the carousel. That'll make it important to get passes done before you turn in. Thankfully, there's some banking here to help you run side by side, but the track narrows on exit. Down towards the chute, it'll take some real confidence to brake as late as you need to chuck it in this diving left-hander. If it goes wrong through there, there'll be little chance to recover. Then you've got the toe of the boot. It might be tempting to make a pass on your way into this corner, but it's the exit that requires the most attention. It's a steep uphill climb and decently long straight afterwards, meaning if you're slow off the corner, you'll be vulnerable up to the heel. This is probably the last decent place to overtake. Every corner after has major downsides. For example, 9 is off camber with almost no runoff, so it'll be single file and require finesse with a throttle. Incredibly, the penultimate turn doesn't even need a lift. Keep it planted and smooth on your way through. Then, the final corner has very little braking of its own, so it's unlikely you'll be able to send one up the inside very easily. But hopefully, you've now finished a lap around Watkins Glen.
And there you have a lap around Watkins Glen. All right, let's take a lap around the points. Just a few races in, so there's not a lot of jumping around going on, but we can look at this one. Now, keep in mind that there are 4 drop races allowed in the rules. Don't take into account that, obviously, since we're only 2 races into the season. Xavier Ross has a 2nd and a 3rd. That's enough to put him in the lead with 396 points. Right behind him is Tommy Anhola. Now, Anhola has a pair of 4ths so far. Thomas Ziegler, well, he has a 6th and a 5th the last time out, so he sits in 3rd. 112 points back is another Spaniard. That is Kevin Jimenez, sitting with he posted so far a 7th and a 6th. And then the last driver on the overlay, well, that is Matt Wood. Wood's been in both races. He's inside the top 5 in the first one with a 5th, and then he had a 10th to open the season at COTA. So there are your points. Those are going to shuffle around as the season progresses. Let's go ahead now. We're always picking up new viewers. Let's take a look at the race details for those coming in for the first time, get a feeling of what this series is all about. Stefan?
Yeah, we already said round 3 of 12 here today, utilizing the official iRacing Grand Prix Series sessions here. 4 drop weeks in total. Today's race length, 200 kilometers or 37 laps. 1 pit stop will be required because we're using a restricted fuel cell today. Setups are not restricted at all, so you can tinker away as much as you want and like to. Incident cap, this is restricted. 17 incidents, but to be honest, we don't expect anyone to run into that because track limits are quite lenient here at Watkins Glen. The points for this private championship in the iRacing Grand Prix Series is also using the official points, but as said, with 4 drop weeks counting in, so that people don't have to show up every single week to fight for their championship.
Very good turnout today, as there were 40 drivers hoping to make it onto the broadcast. Unfortunately, that's too many, so we had to split. We're going to have the top split with us. It's going to be a field of 20. Qualifying going on right now with Chris Aoun up on top in the number 11 car. Let's take a look at our points leader. Here's Xavier Ross. Xavier's still hoping to improve as he sits 7th. I can report that the Australian driver, Scott Newton, now moves up to the pole. Steph, look at the big names here today. Newton is a big guy. Aoun is new. Proveda was the pole sitter last round, but he had made a mistake. Sanfilippo, they're all here.
They're all here, and one guy that I'm honestly surprised about, Chris Aoun. I hope I did not screw that name up, but he is sitting right now in 2nd place on his first appearance in this broadcast.
Yes, indeed. Big names that are down the list. You talked about Xavier Ross, your point leader, sitting in 9th. Mark Usher is only qualified in 8th so far.
Yeah, Jimenez in 13th, Tommy Anhola 14th. Quite interesting that we see these two so far down the line.
You can see that there's not a lot of shadows being cast on the track. Let's go ahead and look at the weather right now. Oh, it is rather cold in terms of iRacing numbers there.
Yeah, it is rather cold. 74 on the track, 73 in the air. Overcast, that really doesn't help that either. The wind pretty much non-existent there with 3 miles per hour. And humidity 34%.
Just a few more minutes left in qualifying as we look at Jamie Hall.
Yeah, and one thing we can report, Mark Usher, he put his car into 2nd place, but he is a full 4/10 down on Scott Newton with the 2nd lap that he did there. So, yeah, Scott Newton really showing who is boss here at Watkins Glen in the qualifying.
Hall sitting in 15th, working through corner number 10. Now he'll come around to this right-hander, which is the last corner on the track. And he sees nothing but the start-finish line in front of him. Let's see if he can improve. And it looks like he is going to go up a couple spots as he moves up into 13th. Here's a big name. We're looking at Tommy Anhola. Another driver well down the list. What's he doing in 15th? This one This one will be good. He's going to the toe right now.
I don't think this lap will count because I saw him practice starting after his first lap. So he might be just practicing the first lap right now.
He's not going to be happy with 15th if that is the case.
No, not really, but he is accompanied by Jamie Hall, Tanner McCullough, and Kevin Jimenez as the qualifying time is over.
Yeah, he didn't even get that one in, so let's go to the grid right now. On the front row, it is Scott Newton, flanked by, Mark Usher. We saw him down there. He was able to get into time. He moves to the outside of row 1. Chris Aoun, the early pole sitter, is going to slot into the 3rd position. Outside of him is Antonio Poveda, the pole sitter from last week who had issues and finished well down the order. Marco Sanfilippo sits in 5th position. In 6th, it's Scott Ziegert. 7th and 8th go to Stewie White, the real-world driver, racing out of South Africa. Clayton McLeod in 8th position. Row 5 is populated by our points leader, Zavi Ross, flanked by Thomas Noel. Stefan?
Reed Miller takes right now home 11th place, or takes the grid in 11th place. Tanner McCullough 12th, Jamie Hall 13th, Kevin Jimenez 14th, Tommy Anhola only in 15th, Lars Strong 16th, Koda Miva 17th, John Pat Kelly 18th, Jim Ray in 19th, and Danilo Sanfilippo not qualifying in 20th.
Wait for the drivers to get on the grid. Mark Usher yet to go out in 2nd position. You can see it's a little bit of an Edgar Allan Poe type day as the clouds hang low in the heavens oppressively. 20 drivers here. This is round 3. The battery's not included. They're racing the Williams FW31s.
Still 1 row missing there in the back. The 3rd row from the back is still missing 1 car. I did rush a little bit through the latter half of your grid because I already got the lights here on my screen. So, yeah, sorry for that if I did rush a little bit too fast there through the grid.
There are some big names farther in the back. The Clayton McLeod in 8th, Zavi Ross, your points leader, in 9th. Tommy and Hola back in 15th position. You can hear those Williams engines begin to harmonize.
Seems
you
like
know what to do.
Starting from the pit lane.
Gather up the chicken steak, cover behind the cows. The horses are out of the barn. It is the Australian Scott Newton leading the stampede.
Oh!
First car, big problem in the back. We have a car off. Bookmark that one.
That was Clayton McLeod.
Into corner 1. You know the car that got him. Pushed him off a little bit is Marco Sanfilippo. We'll come back and look at that one when the action allows. Up front, it is Newton. Usher is in now 3rd position as Aoun is around Usher. Poveda in 4th. Go ahead.
I can report, however, really quickly that Clayton McLeod is still racing and he's not hurting at all. So very lucky break for McLeod there.
All right, so let's run down.
Back though, Kota Miwa gets turned around.
And that time it was Danilo Sanfilippo who got him. That was a different one. Kota is hard into the wall. I think Miwa will be done for today. No fast repairs. Again, we'll come back and look at lap number 1 when time allows. We'll get both of those. Newton out in front. Aoun in 2nd, Usher in 3rd, trying to pick up that spot. There's a big gap between 3rd and 4th. Poveda is the driver in 4th. Stewie White rounding out your top 5. Right on board with the South African driver looking ahead at Poveda.
Jamie Hall right now, the biggest mover of this race from 13th to 8th. But he is getting attacked right now by Marco Sanfilippo himself, as we also see the attack from Stewie White on Ortiz Poveda. Can he hang on the outside? Yes, he can. Stewie White.
Got him through the carousel. Remember, the carousel has a very different animal today without the bus stop, without the inner loop that precedes it. So White now up into 4th. We'll keep an eye on him and see if he can move up. He's got about 1.4 seconds to get to Mark Usher. up in front. The top three separate a little bit. Newton had a bigger lead, but Aoun is coming on him. That interval, if you want to mark it down, 0.8 of a second. You can see it on the top line of your screen there. We talked about the top 5. Let's round out the back half of your top 10. Xavi Ross is in 6th position. The German driver Thomas Zager back there in 7th. 8th is being held down by Marco Sanfilippo after he got together with Clayton McLeod early on, Jamie Hall, and Thomas Knoll, your top 10.
And Tommy and Hall already up to 12th position, making up 3 in 2 laps, so to speak, as Ortiz Poveda lost another position to Xavi Ross right now. So Ortiz Poveda starting in 4th, already down to 6th position now.
Yeah, I'm not so sure if that is Poveda going backwards or is just your points leader Ross having a horrible qualifying experience as he now is up in 5th. As he has Stewie White in front of him, 0.7 of a second to get to him. Okay, we're going to go back and review the first lap. Now this is McLeod. If I can read my notes here, I believe it was Marco Sanfilippo that gets into him here.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're right. We even saw a short 4 White there going to turn 1. And yeah, Clayton McLeod, a little bit of a victim here of, I think that was a bit of a wobble on the inside there that sent Sanfilippo into Clayton McLeod. But yeah, very lucky break for him as he did not get any damage from that.
We come back to McLeod and he sits now racing in 15th spot. He's got around Danilo Sanfilippo. There are 2 Sanfilippos here today, Danilo and also Marco. We go up to P5. We talked about Xavi Ross. Well, he got around Poveda. Poveda has not given up, though, as he continues the chase. They go over the hill, coming at you. That camera angle really depicts the rise and fall here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, especially in F1 cars, it really doesn't seem like that, or it doesn't feel like Watkins Glen has a lot of elevation change, because it really doesn't matter to this car that much. But the total elevation change is quite tremendous here in this track, which you don't really see all that much from modern tracks. And yeah, even though it has that old school feel to it, it still is quite modern. The layout, it still has that fast turns, it has that slower turns, and all compromised in quite a short lap time of just 1:19. It really gives a great spectacle every single time with pretty much every car.
You can see the drivers equally spread out there a little bit as we look at our leader. Hey, can we quickly go to 13th position? We have a pass under attack here. This is Kevin Jimenez making the move on the inside of Reed Miller. These guys are racing in the back. They are side by side. Ciela's bathtubs now going through the chute. Making it work on the outside is Jimenez. He finishes that pass. Move him up a spot.
And quite interesting, Kevin Jimenez wasn't able to go around the inside of the carousel, but outbroke Reed Miller quite heavily into the connection to the boot and was able to just fly past around the outside. There's the crash! There was Knoll, there was a few cars involved there. Tyler McCullough, Thomas Knoll, Tommy on Holler was also, and Clayton McLeod got involved in that too.
Yeah. Knoll spins first, and then they really pile in. Then McCullough spins. Clayton McLeod is last on the show. Another driver involved was Tommy Unhola. But it all starts with the mistake from Knoll. This is a great camera shot here. Watch as we stay on our chopper cam here. When Knoll spins, then he's parked in the middle of the track. Unhola collects him. That's Anhola going around there. Oh, we've cut to McLeod. He's last onto the scene. Boom!
Yeah, he was in the pit lane, Clayton McLeod, just now to take a new front wing, because that one, his old one, was all broken up. So that is your first pitter, and I'm pretty sure he will not make it to the end here.
That's McLeod in that bad qualifying back there, and then the early spin, he had to work his way through the field, and it got him. We're looking here at this battle for 4th position. This is Stewie White. Here comes Xavi Ross. Ross has left Poveda behind.
Oh, what happened to Marcus and Filippo? Oh, he crashed in the chute! It's not too long ago, maybe 30 seconds. But yeah, just took it too deep into the chute. As hopefully we're gonna be able to pick that up here.
Here we go.
Oh, nope. Bit.
Here we go. We're going to look at Sanfilippo. He's right on board with Marco. Marco was back in about 14th position.
Yeah, we're going to see it into the chute.
Attrition playing a big factor so far today.
Coming into this race, I already expected that the chute will be the biggest problem of this race because of how this turn plays out, quite off-cambered and then switching to a quite cambered turn.
There it is.
And there you go, just overcooks it into the barrier very hard for Sanfilippo, hugs the car and immediately retires it.
Alright, so let's catch our breath a little bit and look at what's going on. Up front, it is still Scott Newton, but he is not running away. He's only, again, 0.7 of a second ahead of Chris Ayun, and there are pit stops still to come. And some strategy can be played out in that one. They can short fill a little bit. Ayun can undercut him.
Oh, and behind Stewie White versus Xavi Ross, they're super close together right now for 4th position, side by side, actually.
Ross is going to get him. He has been working hard. The white car is indeed Stewie White. Appropriately enough. Careful. Oh, they get really close, they touch! And spinning off is Ross!
As Stewie White holding his line there, Xavi Ross turning a bit too much to the inside, collects the front wheel of Stewie White, locks tires and crashes, and Jamie Hall also just crashed.
We look at that one.
It is at the
8th position.
Yeah, it is at the same time of Xavi Ross. When he crashes, Jamie comes by and goes too hard over the outside curb of the carousel at the end.
A fun view of this one might be from the eyes of Thomas Zeiger there, as he had a good look at there goes the German driver, was first on the scene as he watches Hall spin off. So again, Watkins Glen, the winner of the race so far.
Yeah, Jamie Hall just serves up on that curb, gets on the grass, over the grass, big bump there, loses the rear, and yeah, he just gets one with the wall.
We come back to the German driver now, who has up to 6th position, right where he qualified. We're going to look at 7th position. This is Kevin Jimenez being overtaken by Reed Miller. Miller moves to the inside, gets that pass made. Miller up to 7th. Jimenez falling back to 8th.
Yeah, interestingly enough, Jimenez did lift there to let Reed Miller by. There's a little bit of strategy going on there from Kevin.
A great run, though, from Jimenez, as he started in 14th spot. He had cut that in half. And now he goes back to 8th position. I don't think he's done yet. Meanwhile, all this going on behind Newton, who's now opened it up to almost 2 seconds on, and here's on Ayun. Tanner McCullough coming into pit lane.
Ayun made a mistake somewhere because he lost quite a lot of time.
He sure did. continue to race in the same order they have been. White in 5th, Pavetta in 6th. Pavetta be able to move up a spot after Ross spun off. Just to follow up, we really didn't have a lot of time to talk about that White and Ross contact, but really Stewie White did nothing wrong there. He had that car well on the inside, and Xavi Ross just kind of squeezed him.
Yeah, I think that was a little bit of a miscalculation there from Xavi Ross. No, he didn't want to harm Stewie there, just a little bit of a miscalculation, had a little bit too much wheel angle on and collided with Stewie there. The thing here is, with Usher closing right now on Aoun, it's not really that Aoun is losing so much pace all of a sudden. It's actually the other two, Scott Newton and Mark Usher, just upping the pace by that much, literally gaining half a second per lap right now on Chris Aoun. So they really show right now who has the hammer in their hand to judge on who is going to be first and second.
Yeah, Usher's got to get going. In fact, he has a nice run here. I think he's going to get him as they head down into the carousel, taking the defensive line as Aoun. They're going to have to go too wide through the carousel. Let's see if the outside line will get some momentum. He has hold him off, but yeah, Usher will have to wait.
Oh! What a save by Aoun there. Big twitch through the chute. And Usher also with a little bit of a twitch out of the chute, so no position gained there for Mark Usher. Has a lot of slides there now through the toe. Keeps his car under control though and on the tarmac.
Boy, he got loose coming out of the toe, had to pay it for the entire time as he went between the toe and the heel. We have about 6 or 7 car lanes back now. He'll have to pick up as they work through corner number 10. 27 laps to go. We have 11 under the belt. That's one of the best battles on the track, right up front for second position. We can afford to stay on it for a little bit longer as everybody else has kind of spread themselves out a bit. Only 12 cars on the lead lap. And Stefan, one of those, believe it or not, is Clayton McLeod. Boy, how about a tip of the hat to him? He's had a day.
Yeah, and he's only 21 seconds behind Lars Hone in 11th position. So he still can do something if he's able to stay out of pit lane for the remainder of this race. That will be to be seen, because we do not know how long these cars can go on one fuel tank. Yeah, one car that is a bit surprising that is right now 2 laps down, and that is Xavi Ross. He's still sitting in the pit lane, obviously, after his crash, and that will mean that he will most definitely lose his championship lead today.
Bad news for Ross is he's not going to score many points. The good news is there are 4 drop races, so you can just write this one off to a bad day, as if it never happened. Okay. All right. Now you're looking at Chris Aoun. The gap from him to the lead continues to increase. 2.5 seconds up to Newton. Usher now has climbed back in behind him, about 4 car lengths back. Well, about 6 car lengths back, let's be honest. He's got to run. Go ahead.
I just want to say, after about 3-4 laps of both Usher and Newton being much faster than Aoun, Aoun has recovered, and Scott Newton and Mark Usher are back to his pace. So they picked up their speed for a little bit, but they weren't able to hold it, and Chris Aoun is back in it. Last lap he was 0.3 faster than Scott Newton in first. So yeah, he's still just 2.6 seconds away from Scott Newton at this point.
5 drivers have called today: Xavi Ross, Jamie Hall, Marco Sanfilippo, Tommy Anhola, and Kota Miwa. I believe we saw all of those on screen. We know why they are there. Again, we're looking at the closest battle on track right now, and it is up front for second position. Usher with a run. Not sure he's going to do it into 1. I think he's going to wait now. I think he likes his run as he comes out of the S's. He gets a real good run down into the carousel, and he's closer than he was last lap. I got a hunch he's going to like this one. Look at him, as gobble him up. Here he comes. Ducks to the outside. I don't think that there's anything that Chris Aoun can do on this one. Usher knew it was coming. As he goes down into the carousel, he gets down to the apex. Let's move Mark Usher up into second, and let's document how far he has to go to get to Newton. 2.7 seconds. 24 laps to get it done. And honestly, Stefan, look at the gap once Usher, if he cannot make a mistake, once he got around Aoun, he's waving goodbye. See you later, boy, like you're a skater, boy.
Oh! Newton! That's the race leader in the wall there!
Yep. Oh my goodness. We've seen Newton do this before, having it his own way. Did he actually get the wall?
Yes, he did. So what happened here? Out of the heel, just too much throttle input there for his own good. Loses the car to the inside, overcorrects to the outside, hits the wall ever so slightly, and he has a little bit of front end damage to his left side.
And that happened right before pit entrance, so what he did was bring it immediately into pit lane. He is in right now. This could be in the window. So that gives, boy, Christmas has really come early for Mark Usher. He just gets around Chris Aoun. Not more than a breath or two after that, the driver in front spins, and Mark Usher is your leader.
Yeah, and Scott Newton comes out, and he comes out right behind Danilo Sanfilippo, so immediately has to go to work here to not lose too much time to Mark Usher and Chris Aoun.
Now this is kind of what my dad used to call the early peel, late reveal. We have to keep an eye on Newton because he was quick. I think the car is fine after coming in. And he was running pace that was equal to, if not a little faster than Usher. So the problem right now, oh my, is Newton is so loose.
Yeah, Newton does not want to lose too much time, but pushes a little bit too much right now. Loses the rear of the car there in the wake of Danilo Sanfilippo's car there. Has to be careful not to overdo it yet again and maybe hit the wall a second time.
Yeah, that is not what Newton wants to do, because remember, he's not so much racing Reed Miller there. Oh, Newton. He's racing Mark Usher, who's on the other side of the track.
Yeah, and speaking about the other side of the track, he actually is. He's right now in the toe there of your boot section. And he's ever so slightly starting to gap Chris Aoun. It's right now 1.5 seconds thereabouts. Yeah, he's lapping about a tenth faster than Chris Aoun, who is lapping about half a second faster than Stewie White in third place right now.
With there are really no paddles on the track now, as everybody is sort of sorted out a bit, let's go ahead and look at our hard charger, although I hate to do this. This would be the driver, car number 16, racing in 8th position right now. He didn't put in a qualifying time, so I hate to give it to Danilo Sanfilippo. Usually I like the driver, so at least put in a time before I give them hard charger. Nevertheless, up 12 spots as he races in 8th.
I have to give him some credit though. I think he had some problems in qualifying that prevented him from taking part, because he only very late had connected again, because he did disconnect at the start of the qualifying, and only with 1 minute to go he reconnected to the qualifying. So I think that one is out of his hand there for not making qualifying.
Then we're going to give him a pass on that one. The director gives me the okay. So alright, Danilo Sanfilippo is your hard charger. That's good. We don't like to take the gifts away from people. 12 cars on the lead last. Go ahead, Steph.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the battle that we saw once between Kevin Jimenez and Reed Miller for P6. The interesting part is, even though Kevin was able to harass Reed Miller into nearly every single turn. Reed Miller has started to gap himself away from Jimenez, the yellow car of Jimenez, over the last few laps by about 2 seconds right now. The only problem is he's putting himself into no man's land. Next car, nearly 11 seconds up the road from Reed Miller.
We're running just about the same times as we look at nice quiet run that Miller is having. Want to talk a little bit about the point standings now. Remember, there is a lot of drop races here. As we go to P9 to look at this one, this is Scott Newton who is trying. He's tried this before. Now he's up on the back of Pat Kelly. Won't be long till Newton gets this
Something happened there because he was quite far ahead of Pat Kelly. Let's see, there must be something that happened to Scott. It is! Once again into the toe, pushing too hard, spinning his car out there because he pushed too hard. He did touch with his rear end quite heavily the tire barrier that is there.
Yep.
It did happen about a lap ago, so I'm not sure if we can actually go back to that.
That's a good call, though, because when I last saw him, he was coming up to the back of San Filippo. I remember I documented how the charge that San Filippo was having was up to 8th position. He was about to be overtaken by Newton, and now Newton has a spin. He's going to get him anyway, though, despite this one. Let's stay on Scott Newton right now as he's going to take a look as he's making his move on Pat Kelly. There's the pass.
I'm pretty sure Newton was lucky here. Who is that? That is Tanner McCullough there on the outside having a spin himself. Yeah, it seems like Newton was able to avoid any damage to his left side of the rear wing.
Tanner was a lap down. In fact, he was racing. He was about 4 laps down. He's had a busy day. We'll take a look at this one.
Yeah, that started, as we can see, in the two. Outbraking himself, it seemed like he had Kevin Jimenez behind him, trying to go the wider line there. Just outbrakes himself even for the wider line, and then it's a bit of a harsh end to his race there.
The director chose a frightening camera for that one, as he put the nose right into the wall. All right, we got ourselves a battle here. This is for 6th position. Now this is Stewie White that made the pass on Danilo Sanfilippo.
Yeah, Stewie White did just exit the pit lane there, so that's why he was behind Sanfilippo.
Mark Usher, I believe, is in his stall right now.
Yes, he is, and Stewie White coming to the second last turn here already, as Mark Usher well away already, going out of pit lane right now into the SS he goes.
So Stewie White was the leader of all the cars who have pitted, and still is if you take Mark Usher out of the picture, who was out in front. That gives the lead back to Chris Ayoun for now. We have 20 laps completed, 18 to go, so we crossed the halfway mark.
Yeah, and the interesting part here will be, is Chris Ayoun able to go much longer, or will he react right now because he wants to react, or he doesn't have more fuel on board? And sure enough, he comes in. Very slow there on the pit entry, actually. That's gonna cost him a little bit of time there to Mark Usher, who is already coming out of the boot.
Yep, Usher into corner number 9 now, heading up into 10. There we see him. Ayoun still getting to his box, gets there right now. And there goes Mark flying by.
Chris Ayoun just now off and away he goes. So lots of time lost to Mark Usher, who had a tremendous outlap there.
Other leaders that are in is Reed Miller coming in right now. Thomas Zeiger has decided to stay out. He goes up into second.
Poveda also out, so Poveda right now leading in front of Thomas Seeger. 5 seconds between them, and then Mark Usher is 16 seconds down on Ortiz Poveda. So both of them will cycle out behind Stewie White, because pit lane delta is about 32 seconds here.
Just report as we ride on with Poveda, who really we have not heard much. He was the pole sitter and a dominant factor last round. Just have been kind of quiet right now. He's finally found up to the front. He's right behind Jim Ray.
Thomas Seeger just pitted, and I think that was about the slowest pit entry I've ever seen here in this race right now. Was well on the pit limiter before the pit entrance happened already.
Usher goes by.
Even Danilo Sanfilippo goes by, who
Yep.
hasn't pitted yet, I think. No, he has. No, he has.
Yep.
Never mind.
Stewie White goes by. And Seeger comes out in what is 6th position. That's going to go up 1 spot here when Poveda makes his stop.
Hold on. Something happened to Reed Miller. Oh, never mind. It just updated for me.
Yeah.
It showed me 30 seconds between Seeger and Reed Miller there for a second.
Reed Miller racing in 7th. He's 3 seconds ahead of Scott Newton. Now, Newton is in 8th. But I'm not sure if Newton, if my timing and scoring, I'm not sure he can get to the end from here. All right, our leader comes in.
This will hand back the lead to Mark Usher now, who is still leading about 2.5 seconds in front of Chris Owen.
Usher will go by, Aoun will go by.
But this should get close
Yep.
between Poveda and Stewie White.
Yep. Poveda in his box. White just out of the final corner right now. Poveda is
Sanfilippo
rolling.
comes in too.
Here comes White in the white car. Poveda is out. Poveda cycles out in the final podium spot. White in 4th. That interval about 2.5 seconds and shrinking right now as White still has momentum.
Yeah, and not even close, the gap there between Poveda and White.
And there's Danilo Sanfilippo, one of the last cars to make his stop.
And Kevin Jimenez is coming around the outside here of turn 1,
Yep.
so this might get interesting up to the carousel.
Vegas with a little bit of momentum. Sanfilippo now gets the car wound up. That interval under a second, a half second, and closing. Here comes Jimenez to the battle for 8th.
Is he gonna be there? No, he is just about not, but this will get interesting now because Danilo Sanfilippo on the new tires than Kevin Jimenez. But I think the pace goes towards Jimenez here right now.
And remember, Sanfilippo, we have no idea what his pace really is since he was not able to get into qualifying time. Jimenez qualified in 4th.
I'm sorry there, Scott Newton wrecked into the chute.
All by himself, and this one is too hard. Yeah, he's done. He is done.
Yeah, he's done missing pretty much every wing possible on this car into the chute. There we are on the outer loop, as it's officially called, not carousel anymore. And yeah, just through the middle of the turn, just completely loses the car there off throttle. And
yeah, boy, so Newton has gone from bad to worse. So, let's take our breath and run down where we are right now. Director, here we go. Mark Usher.
actually,
Out
hold
in
up a
front.
second.
Okay.
Jimenez is doing the overtake on Sanfilippo right now. Round the outside, he will try to go in the outer loop. Can he stick around the outside? Yes, he can. Has the momentum. Keeps the momentum. Danilo Sanfilippo tries to fight back right now, but has to give up into the chute.
Great catch, Stefan. Thanks for that. But this isn't over yet. Let's stay on this for a bit before we do our rundown. We'll see if Danilo can hang on to the back of Jimenez. Not a lot of racing going on right now. When we have a battle, let's take the opportunity to look at it. Down into the heel. 11 cars on the lead lap with still 13 laps to go. The pit stops are done. And it looks like that's going to settle down a bit, so do I feel comfortable to go to my rundown? Yeah, let's stay a bit longer. We don't get to watch much racing. Let's stay on these guys and let them race a little bit for you.
Yeah, San Filippo is quite close right now for the outer loop, but that mistake into turn 1 did cost him dearly.
I think Jimenez now is safely in 7th position unless he makes a mistake. All right, with that done, let's go ahead and run down. And I want to get all the way through the cars on the lead lap because there's one driver we haven't talked much about. That's car number 19, Lars Hung. We're going to get to him as we do our rundown. Mark Usher is your leader, up by almost 5 seconds on the driver in second. There's Mark, qualified in second, looking to go back-to-back with wins after winning a win last time out. Chris Ayoun in second position. He's got nobody around him now. He's got about over 8 seconds to get back to third position with his Antonio Paveda. Again, Paveda all by himself as well. About 3 seconds up on Stewie White. Another driver racing alone on the track right now. Stewie, a real-world racer, sitting in fourth all by himself. I'm going to round out the top 5 before I throw it over to Stefan. The German driver, Thomas Seger. Again, racing alone. 5 seconds up to White, 13 seconds back to the driver in 6th. Stefan?
Reed Miller is your driver in the 6th position, starting from 11th. He is one of the top hard chargers in this race. Kevin Jimenez, he's sitting in 7th position, about 14 seconds down on Reed Miller. He started from 14th, so he did cut his grid position in half. Right behind him, though, the real hard charger of this race, Danilo Sanfilippo, from 20th into 8th. He is still hanging with Kevin Jimenez as of right now, but 7/10 between the two there for P7. Clayton McLeod somehow is still racing in this race, and he overall through this race only lost a single position from his starting grid, sitting right now in 9th position, and he's looking quite fast, and he might actually be able to get up to these two cars fighting if they continue to fight. He's sitting right now just 3 seconds behind them. Then we have a bit of a gap going on yet again. 13 seconds down to John Pat Kelly in 10th position. Started from 18th. Overall, a very quiet race from him so far. But better have a quiet race that is successful than a loud race that ends very quickly. Last car on the lead lap, I'm going to take you with that too, is Lars Hung. Sitting just 1.6 seconds behind John Pat Kelly. He started in 16th on the grid. Actually, no, he didn't. He started from pit lane. So he started in 20th pretty much and fought himself up to 11th.
Nice race from Lars. Sits back in 11th. All right, good ride on board with Danilo Sanfilippo. Sanfilippo is staying right with Jimenez as he looks. Jimenez made the pass. Let's give Danilo some credit, though. He's hanging in there. Other drivers that are still out that we did not talk about, Thomas Noel. Racing in 12th. We don't need to go there. Oh, we're going to go to Noel. All right, he's a lap down.
Yeah, remember he had that big crash in the exit of the boot a few laps ago. He's sitting 1 lap down, so he was able to recover his car from that wreck. And yeah, even though he did have that big problem, had to spend quite some time in the pit lane, he still right now only lost 2 positions from his starting grid, so he will be very happy right now to keep driving with this car.
And with things settling down a little bit, And we go back to this one as Jimenez continues to drive away from Sanfilippo. I love that camera shot. You see them both on screen at the same time.
Now, as I said earlier, Lars Hung, he is closing in on John Pat Kelly, and last lap he did so by 4/10. So this battle will start to happen.
He's gonna get him. He's gonna get him. Let's ride on board with Hung right now as we looks up at Kelly. There we go. It gives us an opportunity to focus on some of the other drivers. Kelly taking that wide entry into that corner. Gap under a second. Not a lot of cars still out there racing. We talked about Thomas Knoll. We don't need to go there, but just give a shout out to Jim Ray. He's still out there as well. Newton, McCullough, Ross, Hall, Sanfilippo, Marco, Anhola, and Miwa all having an early exit.
Interesting development also ahead for... Never mind then we don't have an interesting development because Clayton McLeod, he had to pit one more time. I wanted to tease the battle between him and Danilo Sanfilippo because he was closing in on Sanfilippo. But yeah, that started to be no more because Clayton had to pit one more time.
He comes out just behind Mark Usher, so now he is a lap down. Leader of all the cars that are a lap down. That means that there are now just 10 cars on the lead lap.
Yeah, and still Hung continues to close in on Kelly, but we see what we always see in Formula 1, it will always be like that. Because of how these cars... Oh! Big wobble for Lars! Yeah. How did he keep that out of the wall?
We'll take a look at this one. Bad news is he lost a lot of time. Good news is he's still out there racing. He still has 8 laps to make this up, Stefan. This one was quite a catch.
Yeah, the corner hangs quite a lot to the outside on the exit here, and that's exactly where he lost it on the throttle. Bit too much thunderfooting it, and the off-camber didn't help there either. But what I wanted to say until he made that mistake is, we see exactly what we always see in Formula 1. You get close to another car, you start to get that huge wake that these cars produce, so your downforce gets disturbed, you're not generating as much downforce anymore, and it gets quite hard to close in those last few hundredth or tenth of a second to be able to make that pass.
So I want to take a second and talk about big picture here as it relates to the point standings. We show you the top 5 every week. You didn't see Mark Usher in it because he didn't race in the opening round. So Usher now has 2 wins under his belt. For all intents and purposes, he is really your points leader, even though he won't show up for us for a while. He's 2 for 2. And when drop races come into effect, he's going to be dominating this series.
Yeah, he is the man to beat in open wheel cars. So not 100% surprised about this right now. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see who will be able to at least stay with Mark Usher and keep him under pressure to maybe force him into some little mistakes to get past him and maybe, just maybe, take the championship away from him.
Just one of the things to keep in mind when we show you the standings, as early on those are raw numbers, so it really doesn't depict who is really favored to win this thing. Let's go back and look at this battle. He has not given up, Stefan. Sanfilippo. You talked about he gets closer, he falls back, he gets closer, he falls back. Well, here he is back again.
Now, well, he's starting to really close in now, especially because he has the newer tires than Gavin Jimenez. It's actually, let's see how much younger tires. That's 4 laps younger tires for Sanfilippo over Jimenez, and he's really close now.
Oh, he goes on that side. Well, that's interesting line. Jimenez protected the outside. That'll give Jimenez the outside line through that outer loop there. But the momentum is not going to work for him. He'll get a run, though. He hasn't given up. This is going to fight as they go down into the chute. And look at that. He holds him off. Boy, that was... Oh! And then a mistake from Sanfilippo. He's going to have to work all over again.
Great save, though, from Sanfilippo. He tried to do a little bit of an undercut there, but had too much wheel angle for the throttle input that he wanted to give it. Spun it out ever so slightly and was able to catch it again, and off he goes.
You know, I was taken by surprise as Jimenez gave the inside line up, and I almost think that Kevin maybe had that figured out. What he wanted to do was, I'll give you the inside line, and then I'll get the momentum out of 5, the carousel, and then make the pass on the way to the chute.
Yeah, the thing is that we have seen so far with the chute and the outer loop is, as long as you can stay on the outside of the outer loop, you will have the inside for the chute.
Right.
So it seems like the preferred line really is the outside line for the outer loop, as long as you can stay side by side.
All right, we're going to jump back here to drivers who are 2 laps down. This is a battle for 12th, paying points. Jim Ray in 12th, Thomas Knoll in 13th.
And they're both pitted at the same time, so they have identical tire wear right now. Both pitted on lap... No, wait, they're 27 laps into their stint, that way around. So they have both quite old tires.
Yeah, with that said, I wonder if there's another stop in the future for these guys. Yeah, both the guys came in. You would think they probably maybe came in the front of their stall, on their pit window. They must have known what they were doing.
I think they're safe because they are 2 laps down, so they only have to do 35 laps.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And actually, this battle just kind of disappears as Thomas Knoll did a good job of getting out of the way of Thomas Zegger, who was going around. Okay, our contract demands that we put the camera on the leader every once in a while. 5.5 seconds ahead of Chris Ayoun is Mark Usher. Let's stay on Usher, as he's going to be coming up on the back of Pat Kelly. Kelly, the last car on the lead lap.
Yeah, exactly. And the interesting thing here is, he split up that battle for P9, but he put the battle on for P10 between McLeod and Lars Hung, who McLeod is now gonna actually go to the outside here.
And there you go, McLeod gets it made. So Hung drops down to 11th. Clayton McLeod, let's give a tip of the hat to him for staying out there and trying to get some points. With that done, let's go back up to Usher. See him negotiate his way around John Kelly. I've been there, John. You got 3 laps to go. You'd really like to finish on the lead lap, but it's just not going to happen. It's just, our director says resistance is futile. That is truly the case. There's just a certain feeling of accomplishment when you can finish on the lead lap. But that's not going to happen as Usher is coming.
Not only Usher is coming, but McLeod behind is also coming.
That's a very good point. That interval is 1.4 and falling. I think McLeod's going to get him.
Actually, McLeod last lap was 7/10. Actually, 1.2 seconds faster than Mark Usher.
All right, we look back at Usher, who's going to get him. Probably not as meaningful this pass as the one that's going to happen here as the second is McLeod. Remember, it's pretty fast. He's just had a busy day of putting the car in the wrong position. There goes Usher. Look at that. Kelly does a really good job of letting the lead car go by. But now he's only got about a half second on McLeod. The difference being here, Clayton McLeod is your defending champion. He's looking for points wherever he can get it.
And the question here will be how much does he want to take the risk here to get past Sean Pat Kelly for that one position? Or does he even have to take any risk as he comes to the inside for turn one?
Go down into corner number 1, and Kelly just kind of gives him a salute. Go get him, champ. McLeod up into 9th. Good news for Danilo Sanfilippo is he is in 8th position. And he is only about 59 seconds behind the leader. He is safe. He's going to finish on the lead lap unless something goes bad. Meanwhile, Mark Usher, coming around that time, is on the white flag lap now as he works his way through the chute, down into the toe. Through the sole of the boot towards the heel.
Yeah, he wasn't a dominating force in this race. He actually had to work for this win, but at the end he got it handed a little bit on a cerebral plate by Scott Newton, with him crashing out of this race twice. So give it up for Mark Usher as he makes his way to the last corner.
As he goes to the last corner, that was similar to what happened in the last round where Poveda was the dominant driver. All right, here we go. Mark Usher picks up round number 3 win here at the Glen. Chris Ioun qualified on the inside of row 2. He'll finish in 2nd position.
And Antonio Ortiz Poveda quite happy there, weaving over the start-finish straight, celebrating his 3rd place in this race, about 10 seconds behind your winner of March.
Stewie White and Thomas Seiger. Seiger, the German driver, rounds out your top 5. Reed Miller coming up to the final corner now as he negotiates the right-hander. He'll finish in 6th position. Amenas, we saw him get around Danilo Sanfilippo. He'll get 7th. Sanfilippo, the last car on the lead lap, gets 8th. 20 drivers entered, 8 finish on the lead lap, but there's only one winner, and that is Mark Usher. All right, the racing is over here in New York, but our broadcast is far from done. We'll take a short break. We will come back to run down the entire finishing order, talk to some of the drivers before we put a lock on the gate. Don't go far. You're watching the Global SimRacing Channel on the iRacing Esports Network. Welcome back to the Global SimRacing Channel's coverage from Watkins, Glen. It is round 3 of the Batteries Not Included 2019 Spring Season Championship, streaming your way on the iRacing Esports Network. The best of the best in iRacing World Championships, as well as many top private leagues like the one you're watching right now, are showcased here on the iRacing Esports Network. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to subscribe. GSRC is proud to be part of the iRacing Esports stable of broadcasters. All right, let's give you the final finishing order here for round number 3 from the Glen. Mark Usher gets the win. He qualified in second. Once he got to the front, he was able to hold it. Chris Aoun makes his debut appearance in the series with a runner-up position. Antonio Ortiz Paveda, he was fast last round. He made a mistake, finished well down the order. He's going to get a podium spot here today. Look for him to climb up in the points. Stewie White debuts in this series in 4th position. Thomas Ziegler, the veteran, rounds out your top 5. The back half of your top 10, Reed Miller, Kevin Jimenez, Danilo Sanfilippo in 8th, the last car on the lead lap. Then we get to the cars that were a lap down. Clayton McLeod just keeps swimming. Boy, he had issues, but he's going to get points for finishing 9th, ahead of John Pat Kelly, who rounds out your top 10. Stefan?
Lars Hang is your driver in 11th position, last car 1 lap down. Jim Ray finishes 12th, just in front of Thomas Knoll, who both had to pit one more time in their closing laps of this race. Both of them 2 laps down, and they're also the last cars to finish this race. Scott Newton started in first, finishes in 14th with a car parked behind the pit wall. Tanner McCullough, he also wasn't able to finish in 15th. Davy Ross, big mistake that we saw there, didn't come out again, is gonna finish in 16th. Jamie Hall, 17th. Marcus Sanfilippo, 18th. Tommy Unhola, very unfortunate race ending there for him, down in 19th. And Kota Miwa, first car to not make it to the checkered flag, down in 20th.
And there you have it, 20 cars in the field. Kota Mila, the last one. All right, I have the pleasure to be able to talk to Reed Miller. He qualified in 11th position, picked up 5 spots, finished just outside the top 5 in 6th position. Reed, you got to kind of be happy with this result.
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. I think it's good to be back in the top split and on the broadcast. I was in the second split the last couple of weeks, so that's just a good result, and it's nice to get a good finish here.
Well, this result will help you with your iRating, give you a better chance of getting slotted into the top split. A lot of attrition here at the Glen. You would think that the experience that everyone has racing it wouldn't be so tough. Was it really that tricky?
Well, at the start it was, because everyone gets really close together, and it's a struggle with the lack of air and downforce. So when you're all close together, it gets a little difficult. Once it spreads out, there's some parts of this track that can really throw you off, and also it got cold as the session went on, I think, so it kind of felt a little different, especially later on.
Talk to me a little bit about the push that you get from these cars. You really have to kind of be careful when you get behind when you're racing close, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely, especially in the braking, because the braking zones are just so short. So if you're really close to someone, and when they hop on the brakes, you got to be right on it, or it's trouble for everyone. And also when you, I guess some of the attrition was also from spinning cars, so it can be really hard to plan where you're going to go in those kind of cases, and it's a bit of luck.
All right, let's get you out of here on this question. Is the Williams your car of choice? What's your favorite car to race on the service?
Oh, I like this one and the Audi GTO. They're both my favorites. I don't like to play favorites, so they're my 2 tops. Thanks, guys.
The Audi GTO, that's a fun one. That looks good on the track as well. Way to go, Reed.
Thanks.
Reed Miller, your 6th place finisher here today. Stefan, who you got?
Well, we're here with Scott Newton, and before we go to Scott, quick update. We already got handed the standings already after this race, and Thomas Seeger is your new points leader for batteries not included. So very interesting development there for the steady German driver. But Scott Newton now with us, and Scott, not really the race you would like to have. Talk us through your race.
Yeah, hey, Stefan. Going into qualifying, saw that was on provisional pole after the first lap. I knew that I'd have to improve, given the fact that Mike hadn't put in a time before that, and I just hooked up the dream lap to be 4/10 clear of anyone. Super stoked about that. But then, first part of the race, up until about lap 14, was doing okay. Just trying to maintain the pace. I saw that Mark and Chris were battling behind, and coincidentally, the lap that Mark got past Chris was the lap that going into, I think, the exit of turn 8, the car was a little bit loose, and tried to put the power down, and the back end flicked the other way and damaged the front wing, and sadly it was all downhill from there.
Yeah, you're saying it that one mistake led into quite a lot of other mistakes. Now, the question that comes up, did you find yourself trying to push that little bit more after your pit stop to make up that time, or were that just mistakes because you weren't that confident anymore in the car?
I was trying to push the car due to the fact that I had to have that wing change, but I had, with the timing software that I was using, I saw that the wind speed had picked up quite a lot. Probably, I think during the early part of the race, it's probably no higher than 13 kilometers an hour, or about, I think it's like 8 miles an hour, and then it all of a sudden picked up to 28 kilometers an hour, which is pretty extreme for this car. And I think the setup wasn't balanced quite right after that. I'm not sure whether that was the contact with the wall as well, whether that put out the toe or anything like that on the wheel, but that's the way it goes, sadly.
Yeah, you're saying it. The wind did pick up quite a lot. It's still at 12, 13 miles per hour from the northeast, actually going up to 15 now. The wind, obviously with these cars having so much downforce, generating so much downforce, the wind plays a big role. Now, next week we are going to... Are we staying in the US? I don't remember. Anyway, going over to next race. First of all, obviously, are you going to race?
Next week at Suzuka, I won't be here because of the fact that I will be away, and with the time slot for the broadcast being 10 p.m. local for me on a Sunday, and having work 6 or 7 o'clock the next day, it's not very feasible for me. So I'll be back at round 5 for Road America. Sure.
Well, anyway, we still have those 4 drop weeks, so maybe you can seize something from this season. But yeah, thanks very much for talking to us, Scott, after your miserable kind of race there here at Watkins Glen. Best of luck to you in the next races that we come up here. And once again, thanks so much for talking to us.
Yeah, no, certainly hoping for a better one next week, given the fact that I won the Bonus Not Included League last time at Road America. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it in 2 weeks.
There you have Scott Newton. He is a fast driver, but I'll tell you, if there's somebody who could really have a miserable race, it is indeed Scott Newton. He's notorious for being fast and just really having bad results.
And he,
before we
he said it right there. I was thinking about Road America. Switch those 2 tracks up. Suzuka is next, then we go to Road America.
There we go. Just to follow up a little bit, when we come back next time, Zyger will be your points leader, as he has a 5th, a 5th, and a 6th, but keep in mind that those are raw numbers. Sitting down about 62 points out of the lead will be Mark Usher in 4th. And he has a pair of wins when drop races start to be accounted for. Look for him to move up in the standings. We'd like to thank everybody at the Williams iRacing community, especially Clayton McLeod, for organizing this series and contracting with GSRC to broadcast it. We know you have a lot of choices when you fly. Thanks for flying GSRC. On screen now are just some of the companies that provide the software and hardware GSRC uses to stream cyberspace into your place. Additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. See the screen and how to get a hold of more of her great work. The Batteries Not Included will return in 1 week for round 4. That will be from Suzuka. GSRC will be there, along with the iRacing Esports Network, to bring you all the action. Hope that you join us. Next up on the IESN will be Race Spots coverage of round 4. That's going to be the European region of the majors. It's going to be the Short Track Nationals from Bristol. Coverage goes live at 1 p.m. Eastern. And then later on tonight, Soup and Crackers, we're going to join Joe Peak to bring you the America's version of that series. A great series that is. So check out both of those broadcasts coming up on IESN. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, visit us at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. All of the upcoming races for our other series are listed on screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar so you don't miss another second of this exciting racing action. Also, if you haven't done so yet, become a YouTube subscriber by heading over to our YouTube page and hitting that big red button. Finally, on behalf of the entire crew, and that would be Stefan, Sean, and Dougie, I'd like to thank all of you for watching as we see Mark Usher go back-to-back with wins here at the Glen. With that said, we're off to have fun storming the castle. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.